goodness. Don't know if I can talk, if you guys can hear me while I'm sewing. Might need to have it up a little bit closer and do this without making a terrible mess. Let's see, make sure the zipper is facing downward and the fabric is facing upward. Change the foot, so I've got a zipper foot here. Mom brain's been really strong lately. The weather has just been crazy this year. I love this machine. I've wanted an industrial machine for a long time because I'm hard on machines, honestly. I have several machines. I have some older ones that people have given me. And around here, you can usually find a used sewing machine at the secondhand store for fairly inexpensive. I have a nice brother Duetta that does the embroidery and stuff. My husband just loves to see me sew, and he made that investment for me, let's see, in 2000 or 2001. I was expecting our fourth at the time. Got to take a few classes with it to learn how to use it and everything, and that was really nice. That was up in Dodge City. That store isn't there anymore. Well, I really appreciated the machine. At the time, I just wanted a couple of like $700 machines. This was, oh, and I still forgot to serge it. I talked about that, and then I didn't do it. I did get the serger. I'll go ahead and do this side while I'm thinking about it, huh? Makes sense. Did get it. I've been dusting, so I've got my dust rag going on here. But this is a bit noisier. So I really just wanted a couple of like $700 machines, which still may sound like a lot of money, but for a sewing machine, that's a nice sewing machine. I had been using a borrowed sewing machine up to that point, and finally told him, and I guess I had kind of proved myself at that point that it was definitely something I was going to use. And so he was very supportive, and he wanted me to have the best, and he's an electrician, so of course an electronic sewing machine and computerized and everything was what he had his sights set on. So I did the best I could to love that machine. I still have it because I can't sell it for, you know, what it is worth. But I have fought with that machine constantly because I'm hard on machines. I like to sew thick fabrics and lots of layers. Like this right here, there's a lot of layers going on in this. And a regular sewing machine just has, you have to kind of baby it along. This baby just sews right through it. It's lovely. So that's kind of my thing. I'm going to see if I can go ahead and search. Hopefully this won't turn into a disaster, because I dislike having to seam rip. So let's see. How do we do Well, it's not the absolute best. the ladies at the county fair wouldn't care for it, but that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and do this little spot here again. And then a little set right here. And then I will cut this not quite down to the end, and then I'll pull one or two of these little threads and I'll trim that so it kind of knots itself up and it won't unravel or get caught in the zipper. So we're knotted up real nice there. There we go. This I usually go ahead on the ends because it will end up sewn in or cut off later. So I usually leave those ends. Sometimes it puckers like that whenever you're only doing one layer of fabric with the serger. So I just kind of stretch it out and make sure that it's not, you know, not gathering and puckering. This one isn't too bad. So there's that. Now what I will need to do is fold this over and put the right side of the fabric down on the zipper. I'm going to go ahead and open the zipper so I can start up at the top again. It's always good to start about the same place you started on both sides. Otherwise things get a little wonky, which wonky is kind of my middle name whenever it comes to stuff like this. Now, doing it this way, I can't really see where the zipper's at, so it's probably be better for me to do it this way, but I'm gonna have to move my little foot. Over here. Make sure it's stuck. There we go. And get that's wanting to just kind of roll up. So I'm gonna up and then back a little bit so I make sure and catch it good. And then these little extra threads, get them kind of out of the way. So anyway, we were able to invest in this machine the year before last, I think, and I've been thrilled to pieces with it. I'm going to go ahead and get the brother out. Like, the pockets wouldn't have looked as wonky as if I would have used it. I'm pretty sure I have some cute bee applique embroidery things that I could use on the brother sewing machine, but sometimes doing something like this and putting it together is just kind of fun. And again, don't worry if it looks perfect or not, that's okay. And if I had it or one of the other machines out that could do a zigzag stitch, I could get a much prettier edge and do a blanket stitch around here. One thing that I was thinking I wish I had done, I wish I'd have gone ahead and made the wings two separate, because it was a lot easier to sew around this than to try to get into this little in-between thing here. And it probably would have looked cuter to have the stitching around both. So you never know. Lots of fun anyway. So we will get this sewn here.
Suggestion. I'm assuming you're going to be muting it and voicing it.
Well, Luke is supposed to edit for me. I am assuming that's going to work like everything else that you guys say that you're going to do for me, and it probably won't get edited, but it's okay. This is real life on the prairie, and interruptions are part of it, aren't they? So anyway, what's going on?
The roast. Just put it in with some water.
9x13 pan with some water, and then if it's frozen solid, we'll just put it in that way. don't wait for the oven to preheat. Just put it in and then check it in about an hour and we'll start seasoning it.
Okay, I did bring in 2. I brought in a peak roast and then.
Well, if they'll both fit, put them both in there. That'd be
I
great.
just got out the big pan.
Okay. Okay. You could put the other pan on as a lid if you want to, and then it would keep the steam in there. We're trying to get on a better routine with meals, and I kind of decided we'd do like meatloaf or meatball Monday, taco Tuesday, I think it was whatever Wednesday, I can't remember what Thursday was, and then Italian on Friday. Try to do it something that's easy to remember, but obviously I've already forgotten. And oh no, it was soup and sandwiches on Thursday. That's what it was. So there we have the little zipper. This is definitely not perfect, but it'll work for a little bumblebee dress. And I tell you, with something like this, again, I'm an anti-perfectionist, okay? With something like this, when we put the ruffles and stuff on, nobody's going to be paying attention to how wonky the pockets or the little zipper is. They're going to be looking at all those ruffles and the cute little girl in the dress and all of her sweet little antics and stuff. Nobody's going to be looking that close to see if I cut it straight or sewed it straight. So, you know, if you've not done any sewing, if you have done some sewing, then you already know you can do better than this. And you can just take some ideas from the design thoughts that I've got and tag me on Instagram if you post pictures of your little bumblebee dress that you make, because I would love to see it. And I absolutely know that anybody who's watching this can do a better job than me, okay? So, and I also am completely against us comparing ourselves to each other. So we're just going to do the best we can, right? So the next thing that you always do whenever you're doing an outfit, and the zipper, probably, I don't read the instructions, honestly. I'll kind of glance through them and see what it says, but instructions are a last resort for me. So, but usually whenever you're sewing a top or a dress together, the shoulders are going to be the first thing that you kind of put together. And then you want to put the sleeve in. And then you can do the side seams with the sleeve all together. So this will be fun because we're going to be putting the ruffles and the sleeves. And I tell you, doing all the extras is the fun part to me. I just absolutely love that. I'm going to go ahead and change this. And I don't want to change the whole thing, so I'm going to put this clear one in. These are feet that came out from one of my other machines, and like I said, I got the, there we go. I got the attachment for the long shank in this machine because it is different, but then it can use all my other feet from my other machines basically, so that makes it really, really nice. Oh, and I found a book. This is my favorite book in the whole world, and I'll definitely have a link below. I am not an Amazon affiliate. They've kicked me off several times. They don't want me to be an Amazon affiliate. And I like getting stuff like this from like Goodwill, which they sell through Amazon. You just have to watch because they usually charge like $3 or $4 for shipping. But the Dorky Homemade Look by Lisa Boyer. She had another one as well after this, a sequel that looks equally adorable, and I just haven't got around to getting it yet. But everybody should have this book. Just everybody should have that book. I love it. So we're gonna get these little shoulder seams together. Now, I've heard questions lately. Oh, I'm supposed to be on a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I always forget that on this. So I'm used to quilting. So, people have been asking about, I have an old sewing machine. How do I get started? Well, if you have an older sewing machine, the first thing you need to do is clean it. And there are a few things that you're going to need to do that. A little paintbrush. This is just a cheapy kids aisle little paintbrush. These are wonderful for dusting in and around. You're going to have to kind of take your machine apart, and I may show that in another video with this one brother machine. It's just a regular very inexpensive machine, but a nice one. It does a really good job. And you take a little paintbrush like this, and then you want some oil, and you can only use sewing machine oil, so you need to get sewing machine oil. I guess these are both the same, and it's got this telescoping little piece to it, and my husband's been using some, and the little telescoping piece gets into the little nooks and crannies, and any part of that sewing machine that moves, you need to dust it all out first, get all that dust out, and then any part of that sewing machine that moves, you want to grease it real good. And then you want to take some just scrap fabric that you're not interested too much in, and some thread that you're not in love with, some just cheap, you know, polyester thread or something, and just sew some, just do some sewing back and forth, and all the different stitches that your machine may have, the zigzag and stuff like that, and just get a feel for it all. Make sure everything's working, there's no clunking around or weird noises or anything, and let that oil just kind of get into all the parts. People think so often that they're going to get not just sewing machines, like a generator. I'm going to get a generator, and they're going to have it just in case, you know, there's no electricity and something happens, a tornado or a hurricane or whatever, and they get the generator and they've got it all out. And do that because sometimes the thread will come up out of it, and trying to see, you know, to thread the machine is, I found this at Hobby Lobby. Isn't it cute? It's a little needle threader. It helps a lot, but still, if I don't have to rethread the machine, let me tell you, girls. So so I just sewed that right through there, and then I'll just snip this and take these extra threads here, and voila, there we go. And then I'll go over here to the serger, and I'll serge it too. That way those edges will be finished. But people think they're just going to get a generator or pull out grandma's sewing machine or whatever and just take off and use it. And that's not the case. If you buy a generator and then it's 5 years before you get around to using it, it's not going to be any good. Thankfully, sewing machines are a bit more forgiving than that, but it's a machine, and like your vehicle, a lot of people take their vehicle to Quality Quick Lube or whatever, and they have the oil changed, you know, and you have so many miles that you have to have your oil changed and your filters changed and all that kind of stuff. Well, a generator needs all of that as well. So it needs to be turned on and run for a little while, and make sure that the oil is good, make sure that the gas doesn't go bad in it, because gas can go bad. So it really needs to be run every once in a while. So of course I'm married to an electrician, so we've got a big generator, but every once in a while he'll just, even if the weather is just fine, he will run the house for a day on that generator just to use the oil and the fuel and give it some exercise, because it needs that. So a sewing machine, whenever you're first pulling out grandma's old sewing machine and you get it all cleaned up with your paintbrush, and the air the dusting electronics there is also a wonderful thing. Use that, just dust it all out real good and oil it up real good. And part of the reason that you want to just on some scrap fabric with some scrap, thread is just so if you over oil and it gets on your scrap fabric, it's not going to hurt anything, right? And then you want to familiarize yourself with the machine and do like my husband does the generator, just kind of run it for a day. I'm not saying that you have to run it for like a whole day or even a whole hour. But if you have fun with it and you try all those different stitches, maybe take a little piece of rickrack and try sewing on the rickrack and see how that works. Try some different links, turn the knobs and just try some different things and really fiddle with it. Make yourself just a little scrap sampler of all the different kinds of stitches and things that your machine will do. Go backwards and forwards and all the different things. Then it will help you familiarize yourself with the machine. It'll get all those oils and things going through the machine properly like it's supposed to. Any excess oil is going to be on that scrap sampler fabric, so you don't have to worry about that. And then you're ready to take off and start sewing some things. Now if it does start making some like clunky noises or something like that, then you need to make an appointment with the sewing machine doctor and you need to take it in for a checkup. Okay, we do that ourselves. I mean, I'd rather go to the vet than the doctor, and our family doctor knows that, and we have a good laugh about it whenever I do go visit him. But like you take your vehicle to the mechanic to have a tune-up or whatever, that's what you need to do with your machine. Now, when we had somebody a little closer, or I went to the city a little more often, my machines saw a sewing machine doctor at least once a year. And I tell you, for 2 or 3 machines, I spent $80 to $150 a year for their checkups. I'm sure it's a lot more now for that. And it depends on what's going on. Sometimes there's a part that needs to be replaced or something like that. You've got to expect that. Just pick up a machine. Even if you pick up an old treadle, you're going to have to change belts. There's just different things that are going to have to be, maintenance, repair, and replace. That's what happens with machines. So, just if you're going to take up sewing and you're wanting to do something, then you need to keep these things in mind. So if you're wanting to get started, then first of all, budget a little bit of savings aside for that, so that you can have the proper maintenance done. If you can actually take a class, most sewing machine doctors, sewing machine repair places, have classes. Have some, and a lot of times if you will stay there while they're working on the machine, if you will call them when you make the appointment and say, I've never used this machine before, or I'm just learning how to sew and I would like to be there while he's cleaning and servicing the machine so that I can ask him questions and he can tell me about my machine. And a lot of times they're very happy to have that, especially if you pick a smaller family-owned business. Say, I want to learn about my machine, I just really don't know anything about it. And then either the sewing machine repair person or one of the people in the store will sit down with you and give you a little tutorial to help you get going. They'll ask you, what do you intend to do with the machine? Are you planning to quilt? Do you want to make clothing? Are you wanting to just do little crafts? So think about those things ahead of time. And if you're wanting to be able to do a little bit of everything, let them know. And if you have some patterns in mind, go ahead and take those or take pictures of those so you can say, I'm hoping to start on something like this. And they may have some alternative options for you as a beginner to get started, because a lot of times we think we want to start with this fairly schmancy project And we get in the middle of it and find out it's way too big for us. And sometimes even the easy patterns aren't as easy as we think they are. I like to start with patterns that have the least amount of pieces. And a lot of times the patterns will say somewhere on the front or the back how many pieces are in the pattern. And I like to buy patterns that have less pieces. Now, occasionally I will buy patterns that have a whole bunch of pieces, but a lot of them are like, they're like quilted or fun or crafty type things. Here's a good example of one right here that has a lot of different pieces in it. I think I showed you one of that one wasn't too bad right there. But some of them have more pieces. This one right here basically just has 2 pieces. Very, very simple. The quick sews are nice. I hope you can see that. So it depends on what you're doing. Now, if you're wanting to do like a costume pattern or something like this, let's see if this says how many pieces. It has 14 pieces. You probably saw it before I did. It's got 14 pieces. So that's quite a bit. So that would be one that you would want to wait a little bit. Here's one. I like costumes, if you can tell. I'm not seeing how many pieces. It has, sometimes it's in a different size, and it might be inside. Yeah, this is a fun one. It's going to have several pieces because of the tiers and the layered skirt, but they're all going to go on the same. And so it's going to tell you what the first layer, the second layer. So, and it's an easy pattern, but there's lots of gathering, which is good practice. It's a lot of fun. So I've got something like this right here is a good starter. And I think it basically it's got 17 pieces. That's a little deceptive. It does have that many pieces, but let's see, where's the notions with the fabrics? I guess it's a little maybe button in the back. I can't remember if it was a zipper or a button. I think it's a button. But you've got the front and the back. Oh, the front and the back in the tank top is different than the front and the back with the sleeves. So that's why. And then it has facings, and facings can be quite a booger too. So anyway, those are just some ideas. If you're starting with children's patterns, honestly, the easy patterns are just about as hard as any of the others. Don't be afraid to buy children's patterns at a secondhand store. Now, a serger is not necessary at all. It is something that I use a lot, and again, my husband likes to invest in my craftaholism. He likes seeing the things that I create, so he's very supportive of that. And I had borrowed a serger for quite a while, and we finally invested in one for me. The Juki is a wonderful serger. I love that serger, and that's part of the reason that I got Juki again for this. That and my great-grandmother's sewing machine was a Japanese-built sewing machine. Can't remember what the name of it is. It's a brown one. It's really pretty. And it's lovely, and it worked so good for her that, you know, I just kind of carrying on the tradition there. She kind of stepped out. That was unpopular at the time for her to have a Japanese sewing machine because it was right after World War II, you know, or right about that time anyway. She might have had it before World War II, actually. But, you know, for her to be sewing on a Japanese machine was almost un-American at the time. But she knew good quality, and it's lasted a good long time. All right, now I'm going to do gathering stitches. So I'm going to make the stitch as long as possible, as long as it'll go, and I'm going to stay fairly close to the edge here and go around this curved edge. And you can see I left quite a bit here for me to pull in the gathers to fit around the armhole like I'm wanting. And then I want to pull this out and give me quite a bit. And then the next, just so I can show you, about at 30 minutes here, so I'll probably start again. So I'm going to do the same thing here on the black one. So on here, to make it look like a bee, we're going to have a little yellow ruffle on top of a black ruffle on top of the yellow dress. Fun. I'm going to go ahead and leave that for a moment because I'll do the other two. And we'll have those ready. I will probably go ahead and do the gathering stitches on the collar pieces and maybe the other ruffles as well. So if I can have those gathering stitches already done, then they'll be ready to go so I can put the dress together. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this for the moment. And I hope you're enjoying this. My crazy antics with the Craftaholics Anonymous. Anyway, I'm glad you were here. And if you're interested in more silliness like this, then make sure to subscribe. Pop on over to prairie-trail.com and sign up for the newsletter. I've got some freebies there for you. Be happy to have you stop by and visit. And we have a new magazine to help more people learn how to live more sustainably where you are, with some good old-fashioned skills and ideas. And we've got some really great contributors and would love to have you join us. So we'll talk to you later.